What if the wildest place on Earth wasn't at the top of a mountain or across an ocean, but straight down, beneath your feet? In 1864, Jules Verne imagined exactly that, a hidden road leading not to a new continent, but to the very core of our planet, through fire, stone, and an ocean that has never seen the sun. Two men and one guide would follow that road. One of them didn't want to go at all. By the end, neither of them would be the same person who started the climb. Our story begins in Hamburg, Germany, in the home of Professor Otto Lidenbrock, a brilliant, impatient, and slightly terrifying mineralogist who cannot stand to be kept waiting, even by science itself. Living with him is his nephew, Axel, a cautious young man who narrates the tale, and who would honestly rather stay home with a good book and his sweetheart than chase his uncle's obsessions. One afternoon, the professor buys a rare Icelandic manuscript, and from between its pages falls a strip of parchment covered in strange runic symbols. It is a cryptogram, and the moment Lidenbrock sees it, nothing else in the world matters to him until it is solved. He locks himself and Axel in the study, refusing food, refusing sleep, refusing to let anyone leave, determined to crack the code through sheer force of will. Exhausted and half-starving, Axel almost solves it by accident, discovering that the message is Latin, written backwards. He is horrified by what it says, and terrified of what his uncle will do with it, so at first he hides the truth. But Axel's fiancée, Gräuben, the professor's spirited young goddaughter, urges him not to be a coward about it. Axel cannot bear to disappoint her, so he finally hands the solved message to his uncle. The parchment turns out to be a message left by a real historical figure, the 16th century Icelandic alchemist Arn Seknusum. It claims that by descending into the crater of a specific Icelandic volcano, a traveler can reach the center of the earth itself, and that Seknusum himself once made the journey. Lidenbrock immediately announces they are leaving for Iceland. Axel is horrified, certain this is a death sentence, but between his uncle's iron will and his own reluctant loyalty, he finds himself packing his bags anyway. They travel from Hamburg down through Denmark and across the sea to Iceland, a place that feels, even before the adventure begins, like the edge of the known world. In Reykjavik, they hire Hans Bjelke, an Icelandic eider-down hunter who is calm, silent, almost impossibly steady, and who will prove to be the quiet backbone of the entire expedition. The three of them ride on horseback across Iceland's strange, treeless landscape of lava fields and farmhouses, heading toward the volcano named in Satnussem's message, Snæfellsjökull. At the mountain, they discover it has 3 craters, and the manuscript says only one is the true entrance, the one whose shadow touches a distant peak called Skartaris at noon, but only on certain days at the end of June. They wait, watch the sun, and finally see the shadow fall exactly where it should. The correct crater is found, and there can be no more turning back. The descent begins through cooled lava tunnels, layer after layer of ancient rock. For Axel, it is a slow descent into dread. For his uncle, every stone is a thrilling clue about the history of the planet. Deep underground, disaster strikes. Their water runs out. Days of thirst and desperation follow, and Axel begins to believe they will die in the dark. It is Hans, moving with quiet determination, who finds a hidden underground stream that saves all 3 of their lives. The days blur together as they push deeper, and something changes in Axel. The frightened young man who never wanted to leave Hamburg is slowly becoming someone who can face the dark without flinching. Then the tunnel opens into something none of them expected. An enormous cavern, so vast it holds its own sky, lit by a strange, glowing atmosphere. And beneath it, stretching to a horizon they cannot see the end of, an entire underground sea. They build a raft and set sail across these unknown waters, dwarfed by a world that seems to have been sealed away since the beginning of time itself. A violent storm catches them on the open water, lightning crackling through the strange glowing sky, and for a moment it seems the sea itself might swallow the raft whole. Further on, they drift past a fossil forest shoreline, towering mushroom-like growths and plants that should have vanished from the earth millions of years earlier. Then the water itself comes alive. Two monstrous prehistoric sea creatures rise and collide in a violent battle, a scene of raw prehistoric power that leaves all three travelers stunned. Later, watching from a distance, they glimpse something even harder to explain, an enormous herd of what appeared to be prehistoric elephant-like mastodons, and, just possibly, a colossal human-like figure tending them like a shepherd, half seen and never fully confirmed, a mystery the story deliberately leaves unresolved. Pressing on, Axel makes a discovery that changes everything. Carved in rock, the name A. Saknussemm, undeniable proof that the 16th century alchemists truly made the same impossible journey centuries before them, and that they are not lost after all. Eventually, their path is blocked entirely by a solid granite wall. With no way around it, Lidenbrock makes a bold decision. They will blast straight through it with gunpowder. The explosion works, but not as planned. Instead of a passage, it opens a churning whirlpool beneath their feet, and the raft is violently swept down and away, out of their control. What follows is a terrifying, chaotic descent, the raft racing through churning water and narrowing tunnels, and the temperature climbs and climbs, and the unmistakable dread rises that they are being carried straight toward the mouth of an active volcano. Just when it seems there is nowhere left to go but into the fire itself, a tremendous eruption seizes the raft and hurls the travelers violently upward, faster than they can comprehend, toward the surface of the earth. They are thrown out, alive and stunned, not back in Iceland at all, but on the slopes of Stromboli, an active volcano off the coast of Italy, watched by a group of astonished local villagers who cannot believe three men have just come out of a mountain. Verne wrote this in an age when huge parts of the map were still blank, and that hunger to fill in the unknown hasn't gone away. It's just moved. Today, it drives people toward the deepest trenches of the ocean, the surface of Mars, and the ice sheets of Antarctica, places just as hostile and just as irresistible as Verne's fictional underworld. At its heart, this is also a story about an anxious young man dragged into something far bigger than himself, who discovers, step by step, that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's continuing to move forward anyway. That particular kind of growth, forced by circumstance rather than chosen freely, still feels completely familiar today. And there's something quietly moving about the relationship between Axel and his uncle, an impatient, obsessive mentor and a doubtful student, bound together by loyalty as much as blood, each one changed by the other by the time they reach the surface again. In the end, a journey to the center of the Earth isn't really about proving what lies beneath the crust of the planet. It's about what happens to a person when they are pushed past the edge of everything familiar and have to keep walking anyway. Verne's underground ocean, his ancient monsters, his endless dark are almost a mirror. The Earth turns out to be stranger and older than any of us can fully hold in our minds. And so, it turns out, are we. Somewhere beneath Iceland, in Verne's imagination, that road down into the dark is still waiting. Whether anyone would dare to walk it again is perhaps the most interesting question the book leaves behind.